Hello there, welcome back to another episode of We Have Been Watching Podcast. We hope the force is with you today because we are back for one of our chronological Star Wars episodes. I'm Mart, I'm here with the CGI Jabba the Hutt Rob. Hello Rob.
Hello. I'm more of a CGI Grand Moff Tarkin. I think I'm a bit thinner than Jabba.
And we're here with a restrained Anthony Daniels in our friend of the show. It's Paul. Hello Paul, how you doing?
Hello guys, thank you for that lovely intro. and C-3PO, I didn't expect to be him.
Listen,
I thought he was going to call you a Padawan or something like that, maybe.
Well, yeah, Paul does live the. For anyone who doesn't know Paul or doesn't follow him on Twitter, which you do need to, Paul does live the Obi-Wan cosplay lifestyle. So, so Rob, when I think of Star Wars, I think of I'm like a mid-level geek. I'd say you're a hardcore geek, but I'd say Paul injects Star Wars directly into his eyes. So I'm expecting some pretty cool chat out of all this. So
no pressure though.
No, it's all good, mate. It's all good. Rob, before we start, I've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. I promised a shout out to our friend of the show, Pinup Sparrow, and she is like a hardcore Star Wars fan. She's been following the show since day one, and I promised her a shout out, and last week I didn't. So Sparrow, hello from the UK. Hope you're well. Saw her on Fortnite the other day, so good. So there we go. Housekeeping done. Right. For regular listeners,
It's like she's the new Bex.
I know. Yeah. Oh no, Bex is still here as well.
Because you didn't mention Bex's name once in the last episode, so Pinup Galaxy is the new
Pinup Sparrow.
Pinup Sparrow.
It's
Rose
Pinup Sparrow
Galaxy,
or
that's
Rose
it, isn't
Galaxy.
it?
Yes, I've said there's two.
Not Pinup Galaxy or Rose Sparrow.
Oh, it's a mix and match there. Right, so in the last episode, we saw Darth Vader freaking up a load of guys in an alleyway, and then we moved straight into A New Hope. So
it dovetails. Judging this as for the chronological rewatch.
Yeah.
Straight after watching Rogue One, the dovetailing from the end of that and the Tantive 4 ship going off, and then even just like the production design with the white corridors and the rebel outfits and everything. It feels nicely seamless, and it's kind of like this follows straight on from that. But this film was filmed 40 years ago before this one.
Paul,
I've got a big confession that after I was intending to go to bed after Rogue One, because I do tend to watch these late once the children have gone to bed, because I do have two young children.
Yeah.
But I got into such a lather that I actually watched an hour of A New Hope because I was just in the zone.
See, Rob, that is dedication. Lightweights like you and me are going to bed.
It's hard not to do it though when it's got the little baby in front of the setting suns and everything, and you see the Leia bit.
So
that you just want to watch New Hope straight after the Rogue One, so just go in quite nicely. Just
for transparency's sake, am I right in saying we've all watched the cut that was on Disney Plus at the moment? Because I know there's various cuts out there.
I don't know if the Disney Plus version the most recent up to date, because they did cinematic re-release, then they did the DVD version, they did the special editions in '97, then there's the Blu-ray changes.
I don't know.
They did some changes for a 4K restoration recently as well.
I think this has got to be the most up to date one I've seen, because there was so many new kind of CGI stormtroopers knocking around Tatooine. It was just ridiculous.
Am I too early to mention walking on Jabba's tail yet? But let's leave that for a moment.
Wait.
Starting off, guys, did anyone get the feels with the old-fashioned 20th Century Fox music?
Yeah.
I was
memories. Yeah.
So, Rob, we were talking off air, weren't we? We're trying to separate the nostalgia from modern-day film watching. So, again, total disclosure, we all love Star Wars, that's what we're doing this, but we are going to lovingly pick it apart if needs be, and it does need to be started. So, guys, I've got to bring this up because my daughter is going to put me in the grave over this. Have you guys heard of the Mandela effect?
No.
Do you know what the Mandela effect is? Apparently, the Mandela effect is something you thought you always knew, but then actually find out it's wrong.
Is this from when somebody said that Mandela wasn't with us, and it was like before he was released?
Yes, it's like that. So I saw my daughter the other day, and she went. So, for example, here's one. She says, "How does the song 'We Are the Champions' end?" And I said, it ends, because I'm a super hardcore Queen fan, I said, it ends with, we are the champions, and you expect them to say, of the world, but it doesn't, it stops. And she says, everyone thinks it stops. She was looking on a website of Mandela Effect stuff. She said to me, what colour is C-3PO? And I said to her, we don't see colour on this podcast, but she said, what colour, what metallic object? And I said, it's gold.
Gold with a silver leg.
Right, yes. So, Rob, I had 40 years. You know, in Ratatouille, when he gets that memory of Ratatouille, I've never seen this. I never ever noticed that C-3PO had a silver knee. His right leg, knee downwards, is silver, isn't it? Or
his left leg, isn't it? Is it his left? Or
I think it's his right leg.
I think I wonder, is that because like
to be anyway?
The toys when you're growing up didn't. I'm not sure they had that. I don't know.
So I'm currently doing a jigsaw. So the other night, talk about a loving wife. We're there the other night watching New Hope. My wife is doing a Star Wars jigsaw that I had for Christmas, because this jigsaw is driving us mad because it's way harder than I thought. C-3PO's got 2 gold legs on that. Throughout the most of this film, it looks like he's got 2 gold legs, but right at the start, as they're going down the corridor, one of them is silver, and I'm like spitting at the screen. I'm like, you've ruined my childhood.
One of my first notes, as to bring up now, and this is an unpopular opinion.
Go on.
About John Williams. Okay.
Don't say that.
everyone loves John Williams.
Yeah.
The score is so intrusive on this film. It tells you everything, how to feel everything. There's never a quiet moment. It's just in your face. And I guess it's kind of because it's meant to be stylized and stuff, and like an old serial. So it's almost like a silent movie, isn't it? But the theme tunes from one scene to another, and they're chasing down the corridor, and there's some music, and there's Princess Leia. Let's play a little bit of Princess Leia's theme. Here comes the droid. Play a little bit of the droid's theme. Oh, and they've shot the rocket off, and the theme changes again as it goes towards the planet. And then the Jabbas have a theme, and it's just theme after theme after theme. And I've never really found it annoying before till this time.
I think there's a reason behind that, Rob, because my parents had the album, and I think it was maybe like the first film, or maybe TV, kind of media that was kind of went multimedia, if that. So I remember us having a gatefold vinyl with all pictures, and we'd just put that on, and you would, watch it in your head.
The film,
yeah. So I think there's a reasoning behind that.
It's funny you say that, Rob, because I must admit I'm watching the film. I didn't find it as intrusive as you did, but I did think to myself, this score is so recognisable and iconic, and all of those beats. And again, we spent 40 years with this film, haven't we? So it's really hard to separate the fact that it is massively in culture everywhere.
Perhaps it's just a time difference compared to the other. After watching the prequels and the Solo and Rogue One film, they don't do it. This is a lot more. There's a lot more. It's got a bit of a chirpier. It's a bit more over the top, a bit more dramatic, a little bit more whimsical. It just seems to jump from these little themes for characters from one to the other so quickly. To me, just more of the says probably about the age of the film and the style of film scoring, perhaps.
It's really hard, again, to think this, but, of course, this was that groundbreaking film, wasn't it? That, there wasn't anything like this. This could have easily become Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, or Krull, any of these.
Actually, one of the things, I was thinking, after watching Rogue One, because we'd commented, haven't we, after watching the prequels, like we found loads of the effects jarring.
Yes.
And then you watch Solo and Rogue One, and the effects are really, really good in it.
Perfect, aren't they? Yeah.
For the age of this film, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, a bit of 70s hairstyling, a little bit, but it doesn't look bad production-wise. It looks really good. All the costumes, like the Stormtrooper outfits. I mean, you look at some other 70s films, and if you look at old Battlestar Galactica or The Black Hole or something like that, they look laughable compared to this.
I think as well, you're right in the 70s haircut, and every man looks in his 70s.
Right.
Every man around Darth Vader and Tarkin's like boardroom table looks as if, you know, they're a pensioner.
Paul, I'm so glad you. Sorry, let me butt in there. We were halfway through. My wife said to me, "Why are Vader's men all old men?" She was like, "The good guys, the rebellion are mostly young people, and these are like the old men." And I was like, "I've never spotted that before. Never." So I'm glad you said that, Paul.
I'm not sure they're just old men. I just think people looked older then.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you know, Martin, I'm a big football fan. I follow a football Twitter feed, and it's old footballers, and they show you a 25-year-old footballer, and he looks older than, well, my dad.
Oh, God.
From the 70s, you know.
Brilliant, I love it. So starting off from this, you know, you get that scene of the droids coming down the corridor. I don't know what it is, whether it's the film stock, whether it's Technicolor or something. I love the look of this, the colours. There was way more droids at the start of this film than I ever remember that there was. I remember it being just a quick sort of bit of droids, but there's a considerable amount of droiding going on.
A considerable amount of droiding.
Yeah. And I've got to say, I found Anthony Daniels' performance much more reserved, and I really liked it.
It's not grating at all in this. They've obviously just seen it. Oh, the kids like him, so in the non-chronological order, in the production order, they've obviously exaggerated his character because
you know, it's all like, I'm beside myself.
Yeah, he's a right prat in the prequels compared to this, and you think they've wiped his memory, I guess, in between, so he's calmed down, I guess.
I think they kind of released him in Jedi, didn't they? When he I know you'll talk about this in the future, but when he goes all kind of Ewok God.
Is that what it is? Is get a taste of godhood.
Yes. And that bit's a bit stuffed. Do you either you guys know the thing about the Kurosawa film Hidden Fortress?
Yes.
Yeah. Because the idea, basically, I'll mention it briefly. Then it's just the fact that the idea of having a grand scale story, but you're leading that through two minor characters, wasn't it? And that was apparently an idea that Lucas had. And the wipes are from a Kurosawa film, I think, aren't they? The way the transition wipes.
A lot of borrowed
so the idea of
styles,
the way it introduces you to the story. And again, chronologically, that's quite nice because you've met these droids before. Then you only see them very, very briefly, just one shot in Rogue One. And then it's almost like, oh, it's those guys again.
Yeah,
watching it in this episode, that worked quite nice for me.
So, you know, there's a lot of talk today. Oh, Rob, I'm bringing up my favourite subject of woke culture here. There's lots of discussion about, Rey's too popular and too good. In my notes, I've just written, Leia doesn't take any shit from Darth Vader. And I thought, for the late 70s, Princess Leia is a badass, isn't she? She's straight up in Vader's face. She's giving Tarkin an earful, and I thought, good for you. You know, that's a good, strong female character.
Yeah, I was thinking, I never, as a kid, it's not actually, this isn't surprising the age of the film when it came out, because I would have been 4 or something. But I know when some kids talk about, their first crushes were things like Princess Leia and stuff, and I was thinking, well, I was a bit too young for that anyway. Yeah. But I don't think she's not shot with male gaze, is she? It's hard for me to judge that as a middle-aged white man, I suppose. I don't feel there's any titillating shots or anything. She's never. Her outfit and stuff in New Hope's all fairly simple, and
it is. Have you the stories about the fact that Lucas didn't let her wear a bra? I did know about that story. There's apparently no bra wearing in the future.
But did she have to tape down her breasts so they didn't move or something like that?
I don't know. I thought it was actually lovely to see Carrie Fisher so young and beautiful with some high gloss lipstick going on.
Oh my God, I'm glad you've mentioned that.
Go on.
That is one of the things that in real life, wet mouth, that kind of lip smacking sound, it's like some weird anti-ASMR that drives me nuts. And her lips, I don't know whether it was when they do the what's it they call ADR, isn't it, when they record the dialogue afterwards?
Yeah.
And she must have being right next to the mic because you can hear her lips going.
Did you find the AD? I think ADR is the right word, isn't it, Rob? Did you find the ADR a bit weird on this cut?
I did on Aunt Beru.
Yeah, there was.
Aunt Beru's voice doesn't match her at all.
There was plenty of instances where my wife turned around to me and she went, that their mouths aren't syncing. I said, no, they are, but it just feels sort of disconnected a little bit. I don't know what it is with the sound.
I think there's things they'll do nowadays, I reckon, that you take for granted. They will mess with it, won't they, in post for the acoustic.
Yeah.
So if they're in an echoey room, they'll do this, that, and the other. Yeah, there is. It's like the voices are all a bit too crisp and high in the mix, aren't they?
There's a great scene where Vader's having a chat with Tarkin, and he's chatting away, and I'm obviously guessing that he gave Dave Prowse some lines, but the actual James Earl Jones' voice stops, and Vader's still waggling his hand at him.
Yeah, his hand moves, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad you spotted that. Yeah, it's like
he's still saying something, but he's. Yes.
I was a bit jarred by the Darth Vader hand movement. It's so unnatural, isn't it? And I know it's a robot doing it, you know, in fiction, but
yeah,
it is so unnatural.
Did you?
Surprised they didn't fix that as one of the special edition tweaks.
Yeah. Do you think Moff Tarkin's like, whoa, easy? The minute you start waving your hand around, people get force choked.
The CGI on Moff Tarkin in this one is loads better than it is in Rogue One, I thought as well.
Sammy Carrie Fisher, I thought it was a lot better this time.
Yeah.
I was surprised at actually how quickly it gets into the action, it gets going. I didn't really feel there were any bit. As a kid, I always remembered the bit where he's cleaning the droids and he gets the message, and then, you know, they're looking for.
Yeah, as a kid, sometimes when you used to have the video taken via TV version, I'd fast forward it just to get to the bit when they got to the cantina.
but I didn't find that this time, and I was like, it seemed to go along, for me anyway, at a fairly brisk pace. Things were happening. There were quite a few. Now, Paul, whether these are the scenes that you were mentioning earlier, there were quite a few bits, and I thought, I didn't remember that bit quite as much, or I didn't remember that bit.
One thing I took from it was that because I think it's the first time in probably about 25, 30 years that I've sat and watched it without any distractions. Usually, I remember it used to be on a Saturday afternoon, so I'd be checking my phone for football results and things like that. This was the first, and there were many scenes that I was like, oh, right, oh, okay. Oh, like one. I know it's skipping ahead a little bit, but there's a bit where they go and find Leia in the detention cell, and they just keep shooting cameras.
Yeah, it goes on forever, doesn't it?
And I did not remember that part at all. But you mentioned about the pacing and the speed of the action. I did find, and I think it's more to do with the 70s film style, that there was lots of like the part when Vader, the very first part when Vader comes into the ship, they're all just stood there looking at each other it was probably only about 40 seconds, but it felt like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
and I know that we'll probably come to it. I don't know if you guys have seen Blue Harvest.
No.
Family Guy.
No, I haven't.
Yes, yeah.
There's a great bit in there where they just parody people just moving and staring into camera.
Did they? I haven't seen that.
Because that happens several times. It is because I've seen that before. I've seen it a couple of times. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. I'd recommend it if you're a Family Guy fan. But I did notice that, and you know, there are lots of times where there's just nothing happening and somebody just moves their head and moves it back.
It's because it's the casting of this is interesting because they've obviously got having with Peter Cushing as like an old British actor. But then, like for the leads with Luke and Han and Leia, Han and Leia. Yes. Let's not get into that again. They're all like unknowns, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Ford had done a very small bit in Apocalypse Now, wasn't he? He was in American Graffiti, but they're all very new actors, and I think that kind of shows a bit. I mean, the chemistry between them is good. They work well as a group. Apparently, they did the auditions like that, didn't they? Because I'm sure I'd heard that he did auditions for this at the same time as Brian De Palma was auditioning for Carrie, and they had the same actors really for both films. They're just trying to find the right combination of people that work well together. And but yeah, some of their acting. I mean, I think Mark Hamill's is probably the worst.
Yeah, he's not as whiny. He's not as whiny as I remember, I must admit.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I just remember him being a whiny little chump.
Yeah.
And he wasn't as whiny as...
He's not as bad as his dad.
No.
Oh, God. You mentioned ADR earlier. Did anyone else pick up R2-D2's motors really, really loudly in the little sort of canyon when he goes off to find Ben and the Sand People attacking all that? I thought, obviously nowadays it'd be CGI. Like in any of the films up to now, I don't really remember hearing any motors. Obviously, because it's obviously actual robotics. You can just hear as he's going along, and I was like... As
he's trundling along, he doesn't he?
Yeah, where's his little rockets that he was using in the last couple of films?
Yeah.
I quite liked to see Alec Guinness's I've turned up pissed on set. He's like, oh, I remember a young Jedi called Darth Vader, and I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute, it's not. That was actually Anakin, and then when he became a Sith, there's not. It's lovely to see this without all of that baggage and gotta fit into continuity.
It's not that bit with him. Isn't too bad because it's almost because he delivers his lines slow enough that you could get away with the explanation that he's decided to tell a bit of a white lie.
Yeah.
Hasn't he?
Yeah.
You can just about get away with it for that, I think.
For me,
but then with some of the stuff when Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen are talking and saying, "Oh, he's a bit too much like his father."
Look at the camera.
So Beru must know what happens to Anakin then, because she meets Anakin in Attack of the Clones.
Okay, does she? Right, yeah.
Yes, she does. When he goes, some people
crazy, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so when she's saying, oh, he's a bit too much like his father, just the idea of is she just thinking, oh, like Anakin is a Jedi and an adventurer, or does she know any potential dark side?
Some people slaughterer, yeah.
Yeah, he's as a teenager, he's going around killing some
she's
people.
Like, watch out for Luke, he's off again,
like
murdering hordes of slaughtering people.
It might just be that she's so sick of Anakin's mum's stories around the dinner table.
Yeah.
When she used to come to visit Uncle Owen when he was a boy.
She's probably thinking, not more blue titty milk, I'm not pouring this out again. So, I always liked the bit with Obi-Wan talking about it was that backstory building, wasn't it, that we were all wanted to know about, because I imagine Lucas just thought,
I knew your father back in the day.
This will be a one and done, I've got to make the best of a can out of a bit of dialogue, and I quite like that. I thought it was quite good. I still love the idea of giving someone a lightsaber, but not saying point that end away from you before you press the button.
Or he just kills Ben Kenobi by accident. How do you switch this thing? Oh, sorry.
Shit. He's like rattling around. Oh, I've got some new kyber crystals in here somewhere. Wait a minute. I can get it charged up for you. I always remember the death of Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen. Really, that scared me as a kid. The skeletons on fire outside.
Well, yeah, it is a bit more graphic than it needs to be, isn't it? Really. I mean,
we
all knew what happened as soon as we see the smoking.
Yeah, they shoot them. So the stormtroopers have shot them and then they've burnt them.
That's a
and
bit
then,
much.
Did they drag them out of the house and then burn them on the front doorstep?
Jeez. Oh, actually, can I just go back a minute?
They're not going to burn them in the house and wait for it to, and then drag the bodies out. So you have to assume, because the house is on fire as well, they've dragged them outside and shot them and set fire to the house and then burnt their bodies and then just stood around and then. Isn't there some years ago there was a little short film jokey short film about the people had gone to do some questioning about the droids. This has just popped into my head, and some fans have made this little short film, and obviously they just screw up by mistake. They accidentally, and then they're just like, "Whoa, we're just meant to be asking questions about these droids," and what some accident happens, they end up killing them or something, and then we're gonna have to cover our tracks now, and they end up setting fire to them.
Brilliant.
I have to look that up.
Just going back a step. There was I forget the exact wording, but there's a bit where he said, "Oh yes, I knew your father once. He trained him," and I turned to my friend and says, "Well, actually, he cut his arms and legs off and then left him to die burning on the edge of a lava river."
Yeah.
That's pretty messed up, man.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw my dear old daddy? He just tells him the truth first film.
Yeah.
Straight away.
I kind of chopped him up and left him for dead.
Right, there's these guys called the Sith, right? So sit down, get yourself comfy. Let me just tell you all the story about your dad.
Did you ever hear of Darth Plagueis? Yeah, Paul, you mentioned CGI. When they get to Anchorhead, it's so George Lucas-y messed with, isn't it?
It is. You can tell it was done around the time of the sequels. That basically he just downloaded Windows XP and just went crazy, didn't he?
It's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Showers falling off, those monster things, those dinosaur-y things. There's like a funny little comedy robot beat, isn't it, when they first go into the town?
Yeah.
And there's like a little flying thing bugging another robot, and it kind of drops its bar that it's carrying and then hits this little robot. And I was like, why do we need crap like that?
I just don't get what that's all about. Did Lucas just think, oh no, everyone loves Jar Jar Binks and all this CGI stuff, I'll just stick some extra little bits in
it's
here
like
to make
Paul
it.
said, it's just trying to make it fit with the prequels, isn't it? So because I suppose he's thinking all this looks very sparsely populated compared to the prequels, but that's fine. You can assume it's sparsely populated because life's gone to shit, hasn't it, back under the Empire?
It does look at. I mean, I think you guys mentioned it a couple of times when reviewing the sequels that it's basically, I think I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I think I want to do this, and no one's actually said, Georgie, baby,
take a minute.
or equally, if somebody has said, Georgie, rein it in, Christ Almighty, what the first draft was like.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. He probably had loads of pod race kids on their Lambrettas hanging around outside, brightly coloured Lambrettas pod racers.
Are you saying Dave Filoni came across those notes when he was,
Yeah. I don't really. I still think Greedo shooting second, or whatever we're going to call it nowadays, is that the greatest discussion of that. I don't really need to go into it too much, but it's just shit, isn't it?
But if you look, Greedo's actually aiming at the ceiling.
So Greedo shot the ceiling first,
And the weird thing is, as we talked about when we watched Solo, that in that, Solo shoots his character, doesn't he? Woody Harrelson's character, before he has a chance to do anything. And at the start of Rogue One,
Cassian Andor killing people in the back.
Kills first.
Yeah.
So there's already, again, watching this in chronological order, there's precedent for that. So, I mean, I remember the cinema special editions when they had Han move at first, didn't they? And everyone was taking the mick at it. He did this jerky move to the left, like he dodged the blaster. Then they've changed it so they're almost shooting at the same time, and it's just,
terrible.
The best. But that cantina scene, that idea of just all these different aliens, in this drinking hole, is pretty cool.
It's great. I love it. And there's lots and lots of different, including your mate there, Rob, who was in Rogue One. I don't like you.
He doesn't like you.
Yeah.
That's what started in every Star Wars film. There's going to be a limb chopped off with a lightsaber, hasn't there? People have got to have loss of limb in every Star Wars film.
Who loses a limb in Phantom Menace?
Well, Darth Maul loses half his body, I suppose.
Technically loses 2 limbs.
Loses both his legs.
Attack of the Clones, Anakin's hand.
Yeah, and obviously then in Revenge of the Sith, it's Anakin's arms, legs, skin,
and Mace.
Yes, and then
Mace's arm, yeah.
Oh, and Dooku.
God, they're all at it.
Oh yeah, hands and head.
Is his head?
And then I'm trying to think in Solo. Perhaps there is something.
Oh, I need to. I'll look that up now. we need a limb.
That's the thing.
A limb loss spreadsheet going on.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge loses her kind of body.
That's true. We're onto it.
The entrance of Harrison Ford in the cantina though.
Still cool. Still cool.
With his cowboy swagger.
Yeah.
Wearing his gun right down there low on his leg.
He's got it just right.
I'm surprised they didn't give him a hat because they went that far when they did things like Cad Bane. He's just clearly a Lee Van Cleef type cowboy. I'm surprised they didn't give anyone cowboy hats because that's what he is, isn't he? In that
Absolutely.
scene.
Although something that
did you notice in the cantina? I don't think it is Cad Bane, but there is a Cad Bane.
Yes.
Oh no, I didn't spot that.
Countryman
And
or
what are they called?
planet.
Androsian or something. I can't remember what they're called.
I'm not that geek. I'm not that.
They're having a little.
hardcore.
They're having a conversation, aren't they? In like an archway or something with the red eyes and the blue. Yeah, and I think that is their species, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, I did spot.
The CGI Jabba. I mean, that's just. That's got that thing there, and I get the fact that it's overly CGI on the top, but Hardy's really close to Jabba, isn't he? When he tried to sort of like paint over that guy that was there originally.
Puts his arm around him as well, doesn't he?
It's. Do you reckon whoever worked on that CGI was like, oh yeah, I worked on the.
Again, that's the second. That's the second version of the CGI. If you Google online the changes, the cinema version of that scene, the Jabba looks even worse than that.
Oh, I need to look at that.
Yeah, because I'm seeing these at the cinema re-release when I lived in where would I have been living in then? Stoke, then I think. And then when they brought them and they did another little tweak for the DVDs or something, they fixed some of these things because the first Jabba, not the first as in the man in the hairy coat that they did, but the first CGI Jabba is just dreadful, so bad.
So, yeah, I mean it's like a young Jabba here, isn't he? So.
And Boba Fett, by the way, of that scene.
Yeah.
When Boba Fett. Because instead of just having it as an Easter egg, no, you've got to have Boba Fett
just looking at the camera.
Jabba, the scene ends. Boba Fett stands there on his own, looks at the camera.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't just like point and do like a little gun thing with his hand. Like, it's me.
Or do the floss.
Jesus. Yeah, do some Fortnite dancing going on there. So I quite like the Tarkin saying to Leia, "Oh, let's in. We're going to destroy Alderaan." No, and then he says, "Yeah, now destroy it anyway." I thought that was a nice bit of bad guy there. Really, really good. I think the boardroom with all of Vader's force choking and all going on. That was all good.
Does he
in the force?
Yeah,
the look and the design of all that is just fabulous, isn't it? I mean, we couldn't get any more Nazi-like if we tried. But
hey, did you notice actually the scene before? Just go back a tiny bit. You know the bit after Jabba.
Yeah.
And then the stormtroopers turn up, so they have to make a quick getaway.
Yes.
When Han gets in the cockpit,
yeah.
I have never noticed before.
Go on, don't say the dice.
The dice.
I've never noticed that. I didn't notice it this time. Actually, I wasn't looking out for it.
You can see them fairly. When I always thought, where are these dice? There's never any dice in this cockpit. I never knew what that was all about.
So we've got
the dice are there.
Clearly worked because it's now in your head.
Yeah.
We've got 3PO's leg and then Han's dice already here going on. Again, I don't know what order we're going in. Probably going out of order here. You remember the training scene with Luke, and then he puts the blaster helmet on. So, a couple of things there. Number one, who invented a crap helmet with a blast shield so you can't see? What use is that kind of helmet? I don't quite get. And secondly, he kind of like says, okay, he blocks a couple of things and he says, yeah, okay, you're a Jedi now. I'm just like, yeah, you've got it now. That's the Force. You'll kind of work the rest
He
down.
Doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
He's taking a small step into a larger world.
I think he's just trying to like troll his dad there, because his dad went through all these years and never made it as a master.
And now he's like, yeah, you're on the way.
Yeah, you know the right end of a lightsaber. You didn't kill yourself. Well done. You're a Jedi.
Yeah, you've got it now. So yeah, heading out there. You're right, Rob. These special effects still look fab. They find the little TIE fighter out there. That's no moon. And then we've got the tractor. I've got to say, whoever's searching the Millennium Falcon doesn't do a very good job of thinking, what about these massive panels in the floor? That's a pretty obvious hiding place.
Oh yeah, any kind of scanner that would pick up life forms or anything. But the idea of them smuggling the panels, that's all good.
That's quite good. It's our favourite thing there, Rob, of relatively sized people going up. So, Leia says you're a bit short for a stormtrooper, but he'd nicked a stormtrooper's outfit. So surely that original stormtrooper was short in the first place.
It does fit him absolutely perfectly, doesn't it?
Do you reckon that guy's being bullied every day at work? They're like, here he is, he's short stuff stormtrooper. get him a box to stand on.
One thing that's always thrown me is you've got these hundreds and thousands of stormtroopers knocking about, and then you've just got the scanning guys who just rock up in their like overalls, like the janitors.
They're like, oh, get these two dickheads. And it's the, you know, the Robbie mentioned Bex on our episode a bit earlier. I spoke to her today, and she mentioned, you know when they do that first firing onto Alderaan, it's got those two guys on that little ledge. And there's no railing. No railing, and they're like, yeah.
Oh, that's what they talk about in Blue Harvest, the Family Guy thing that you've mentioned. Yeah.
Spent all this money on kyber crystals, we can't afford any rails now. So. Yeah, go in there.
I guess the Emperor doesn't really allow trade unions.
No, he's probably like, yeah, if you fall, don't care. We used to have clones, Roger. Now we've just got workers. So then we've got like the capturing of that sort of like information room where that stormtrooper bangs his head as he walks in. That was always on like, it'll be all right on the night. Do you remember that?
I think that this is the best part of the film.
Yes.
All the stuff when they're in the Death Star.
It's great.
And they're coming up with the plan with Chewbacca, and then the cell block escape, and all of this stuff. I still think is the best part of this film.
This to me is what I think of when I think of, you know, as I just call it, Star Wars, not A New Hope, because that's what it was back then, wasn't it? That's really, really the best bits. I love it. Paul had mentioned shooting loads of cameras. That was good. Leia's good, you know, taking charge, shooting up the shop.
Yeah, and Han doing the boring conversation anyway bit. That's still funny. That still works.
What did you notice? You know, right at the start, and all the Jawas are dead, and they said, "No, this isn't Sand People. These are stormtroopers. They're nowhere near as accurate as this."
Yeah.
And then later they can't shoot Han and Leia and Mark Hamill in that one corridor. There's like 20 stormtroopers down there.
I do have a not my theory but a fan theory.
Go on, yeah.
Is that, and the Kenobi series might wipe this out, but Ben Kenobi's last dealings with stormtroopers, they were clones, so they were good. 20 years later,
these are recruits, and it could be anyone, couldn't they?
Yeah. So his memory is of good shots, good stormtroopers. He's not met the police academy stormtroopers.
And also, they're not even. You've seen how many stormtroopers there are knocking around in the Death Star. Anyway, I mean, just the Millennium Falcon's brought in, and they're just loads of people, just all stormtroopers, a bunch of them just standing there doing nothing. So they've obviously got tons of people, and they're not. Are they actually seeing any action? To be any good at the job? I don't know.
Maybe, like you say, maybe it's just numbers,
true.
Isn't it? It could just be.
All they are is they're just like security guards now, aren't they?
Cannon fodder, aren't they? I always used to love the bit of Han chasing the stormtroopers down the corridor, and then
why did they run away?
Well, like Paul just said, they're farmers and recruits, aren't they?
That's another CGI change, isn't it?
Yeah.
When they turn the corner, isn't it? When they turn the corner, it used to be a bit of a dead end, and then they changed it so it's like an open space with even more stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They CGI changed it.
Did you see though the stormtrooper got shot? How he reacted?
No. Go on.
It was like he'd been hit with just 24 guns, and he just
it flies over, doesn't he?
It's brilliant. You have to watch it. It's brilliant. He's really taking his method acting proper serious.
He's going full Jared Leto there, is he? So going for Paul's fan theory, I've got a theory about Obi-Wan. I wonder in this upcoming Obi-Wan series whether Obi-Wan's going to have some sort of fairly heavy-duty injury that cannot be helped out by a back-to-tank or whatever. So that, and the fact that he's now an old guy, is why he's a little bit clunky and a little bit slow. You know.
Well, how many years after the Obi-Wan Kenobi show would New Hope be then? Because you see Luke in the trailer, so Luke's meant to be about a 6-year-old kid. He's meant
about 12 years, isn't it?
10, 12 years.
That sounds about right, yeah. So 12, Ewan McGregor in 12 years' time?
You know,
Would look like Alec Guinness.
no, but that's fine. You know, you can sort of get by all of that.
Yeah, a bit of suspension of disbelief on that, can't you? You can accept that.
It's fine.
But again, like you said, like the Stormtroopers not seeing any action because you think, oh well, Alec Guinness, why does he look a bit doddery here? But again, it's been like years.
12 years of doing nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even know if they'll have him be a bit ropey in the Kenobi show, but 12 years after that, you've left the army 12 years later. Are you going to be any good at your skills anymore?
Well,
after 12 years?
And you've been talking to yourself as well.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
Wearing a plus-size Jawa outfit, I noticed this time.
Nothing but his hand as company.
His hand solo.
It's in his name. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, Rob, you're driving the quality of this show through the floor. 100,000 listeners will be upset listening to this filth.
Your mum will. Sorry, Mum. Sorry, Mark's mum.
I love it. So yeah, all really good. The escape from there, the little Leia and Luke kiss. Again, they're perched on that little ledge, and those stormtroopers are crap at shooting, aren't they? Because they're like.
Well, they could just bend down and shoot him in the feet, couldn't they?
Yeah, but again,
we've got to wait for this door to be fully up before we shoot them.
Yeah, stick your gun through. No, I can't do that. Stick your gun through this little ledge. Lovely bit of Obi-Wan turning off the reactor. Like you said on last week's episode, Rob, the control panel has to be far out on a ledge, facing backwards in the most dangerous place they can put a switch.
No one could do anything remotely like with modern tech. It's like, over here, and then they can build a Death Star, but it's got to be this manual lever that you have to pull down.
Go right on a far ledge over the edge. So again, they all escaped. That was pretty good. Quite liked all that. Then, you've got the
duel. Then I suppose, isn't it?
It's the duel. I mean,
I do like the lead up to it because you've got the three of them are in different places. You've got obviously Obi-Wan meets Vader, and I'd forgotten Vader was waiting for him with his lightsaber out. And then you've obviously got Leia and Luke coming from the upper decks.
Trash compactor, haven't they?
Yeah. And
they're just from the swinging across bit.
Yeah, Chewie and Han are coming from a different direction. That the lead up to that, like we were saying, we haven't seen it properly for a while. That was quite good. If you didn't know it was coming, that'd be really good.
That's all well paced. That's all well done. And it's all great action stuff as well.
I was funny
what. Saying about what?
It's a shame that sort of Obi-Wan looks over, doesn't he? And then he says, "Right, they're going to get away now. I'll sort of give up, if you will." If he'd held out a couple of minutes longer, then they could have got on the ship a little bit more safely. And apart from Luke just standing there with his jaw open, "Oh no, Obi-Wan, what are you doing?"
But Mark, do you not think he's doing that to make him hate Vader?
Oh.
Could he have not taken Vader, do you think?
Obi-Wan, then? No.
Yeah.
No.
Why not? It took him before.
Well, yeah, but he didn't have the high ground this time, did he? And there wasn't a lava river, and Vader's got that badass suit with robot arms and legs now, it's
not a massive contradiction for them to re-meet in the Kenobi show. It's just when the Falcon turns up, Vader just goes something about a sense of presence I haven't felt since, and he never finishes his line, doesn't he? He walks off. So we always thought what that just meant since the Clone Wars. Yeah. But obviously now it's a rematch that happened 10 years ago, because I guess they're going to meet in the Kenobi show.
I think they are. I think because otherwise he wouldn't know, would he? He wouldn't know Vader was Anakin, surely, or that,
Or does he? Or does Vader?
You know what? I have never thought about that. Yeah, because you just left him there to die, so it's like
he doesn't know that
the bad guy using the Force going around. I suppose you could put two and two together, but yeah, it's got to be very explicitly. Oh, well, look at the state of you now. That's what they've done to you. Yeah, it would have to be, wouldn't it?
Or actually, in a sort of uncut scene there, Rob, he actually says, "I haven't felt that since." He chopped my arms and legs off and left me to go on the edge of the river. So he's really hung up about that. He's still pretty pissed off about that. But yeah, all fabulous. They go out there. Then they've got the. I'm sure I don't remember Luke meeting Biggs before, or whether that was an added-in scene, or if I just didn't remember.
No, that's always been there.
I didn't remember that at all.
There's outtakes, isn't there? There's a longer scene on the actually it's on the extras on Disney Plus. That scene is trimmed because Biggs comes over and they hide an edit by having someone walk across the camera because Gold Leader comes over and he sort of says, "Are you any good at flying these ships or something?" And he says, "I remember your dad when I was a kid. He was a great pilot," or something like that, which would seem a bit weird now, I suppose. You think, well, why would you have known him as a little kid? Who are you? But that's been trimmed out. Yeah, and they also got the scene when he goes to Toshi Station and Biggs talks about leaving to go off to join the rebellion. That's on the Disney Plus extras as well. Yeah,
I remember seeing that on a DVD thing years ago. I thought there was more of Biggs.
There's a scene, isn't there, with do you remember Ku Stark?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's a scene. It's not on the extras on Disney Plus, but I have seen this somewhere where it's almost like a youth centre type scene where they're all sort of hanging around and stuff.
Really?
And Luke turns up and he's wearing this little sort of white hat. Looks like a fisherman's hat. And
I've never heard of this.
And I've seen that scene somewhere before as well, but it's like really poor quality outtake.
What is that? That back on Tatooine?
Yeah, those are all his mates that he's sort of hanging around with. Then there's the scene where Biggs says, "By the way, don't tell anyone, but I'm heading off to join the rebellion." And then obviously that's when he then goes. You see him with Uncle Owen saying, "You know what? I don't really want to stay for another harvest. Can I clear off now?" So you see a bit more scenes with him and his sort of teenage mates hanging out and stuff like that. On their Lambrettas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. With Obi-Wan disappears.
Yes.
Because it was weird because I don't know what I thought of that, to be honest, when I was a kid.
I always thought that was some weird Force stuff, but then because it's not the same in any other film.
He puts his foot on the cloak, doesn't he, Vader?
Yes.
He hits him, and the cloak falls to the floor.
Yeah.
And then Vader steps forward and starts tapping it with his foot.
Yeah.
Does he think that Obi-Wan has turned himself into a little mini person to escape, and he's just checking
I don't know.
with his foot for something?
I mean, I always thought this was an unusual trick of the Force that Vader hadn't seen, and he's like, "What? Are you a Force ghost now?"
He wouldn't have seen it, would he? I'm guessing the disappearing, turning into a Force ghost is linked as a power, and you've not seen anyone do it, have you? Because Qui-Gon didn't disappear.
No, but I mean, firstly, I think Vader's maybe searching for his wallet,
or his lightsaber. Maybe so. I'll have that lightsaber.
But at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Yoda says that he's been chatting to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
So that's all connected to that, isn't it?
But Qui-Gon doesn't disappear physically.
No, but Qui-Gon's learnt that, I think, in the afterlife, because
Qui-Gon they burn him in front of a 10-year-old boy that was just abducted from his mum. Yeah, because there's a Clone Wars 2 or 3 episode where Yoda goes on gets on mushrooms and he talks to Qui-Gon.
Yeah, because Liam Neeson did the voice acting in the episode, doesn't he? And there's also in those Clone Wars episodes there's stuff about. Don't you see Darth Plagueis or Darth Bane or something? No, I think you see Darth Bane. There's some good, history
I need to
stuff.
Get on to watching that.
But the best bit is because Qui-Gon makes very good lists.
Well, that's why he got the job as Oscar Schindler. So, Rob, you know your constant thing about Han, Leia. Did you notice the old guy giving the briefing in the?
No.
He says,
I didn't notice this at all.
These plans supplied by Princess Leia, and I looked around at my wife and I was like, "See, he says Leia, he says Leia, Rob says Leia." I thought that again, there's some various uses of pronunciation there. Which I thought was quite good.
To give them their due, Martin. Did you think that when George Lucas was directing this, that 45 years later you'd have three men talking from different parts of the country, about the pronunciation of 2 words.
Yeah.
Paul, I bet he didn't think he'd be selling this like for $4 billion, and he'd be like, "Shit! And what people want to buy this off me for 4? I'll just had the money to sell lunchboxes and toys."
Yeah, keep him in check shirts for the rest of his life.
People like Rob buying trash compactor Lego sets for 60 quid. so then we get on to like the final. The final showdown. I love this bit. This bit's fabulous. Yeah.
That guy called Porkins. They call him Porkins.
I mean, come on.
They call him Porkins.
There's some fat shaming going on there. Good and proper.
And they kill him. They kill him first as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So not only is your cockpit full of pork scratchings, but you can't fly either.
It's like
Fatty
Fat Face, something like that.
It's like right.
That's the name of his ship. On the outside.
Do you reckon they're there and they're probably like, right, we're auditioning today just for like the extra pilots, right? So we got Biggs, Wedge, Porkins, and then this guy walks up and Lucas is like, I know, let's get a fat guy called Porkins, and they're like, yeah, it's the 70s, we don't give a shit, we can do what we want, we haven't got any sort of like...
You know what, you say that, it was the 70s, it could have been so much worse.
Exactly.
It could have been so much worse.
It could have been, Lucas could have made him not wear a bra.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, the trench run. Do you know what I saw on Twitter today? It said something like, everyone thinks this is the trench run, and it shows the line that goes around the centre of the Death Star. Have you seen this? Knocking around, I'll try and find it. No. So you know that sort of line that goes around the centre, where it's almost like it's in half.
That's like the docking bays, isn't it?
It says that isn't the trench, and apparently the trench is, if you imagine that the radar dish bit is what, 10 o'clock on a clock, isn't it, on the clock face? The trench is above that, sort of midnight, 1 o'clock, and I was like, what?
Surely you can tell where the trench is because of the exhaust where it sticks out.
Exactly, where it's sticking out there.
Well, Rob, I have to bring this up. I've gathered over the last few weeks that you're not a big fan of Star Wars space fighting.
No.
This is brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's
Even
boring.
This is brilliant.
It's definitely a bit hokey, but that's just special effects.
Have they only got 6 TIE fighters in the Death Star?
Yeah, they should have had 100.
They're going to blow us up. Send out 6 TIE fighters.
But equally, if the stormtroopers can't shoot, they're not very good at fixing things either. So
or flying, for that matter.
You see a lot of them standing around, falling over when it's almost a direct hit, and you see them all like fall over.
Yeah.
And then, now I'm not a big fan of this bit at all.
Can you imagine?
I think it goes on a bit too long. It's like they go in for a trench run and it fails, and they do another trench run and it fails, and they do another trench run, and Vader twiddling the focusing knob on his targeting computer and just like, I've got this one.
Yeah.
I thought he was trying to find the right radio station.
Yes, Heart FM. Let's get that on.
Can you imagine if they took like you just said, Rob, maybe they're on like the 20th attempt and they're like, right, Luke, this time leave the targeting computer on. I know you keep turning it off all the time. Leave it on. Yes, I will this time. And he gets halfway down there.
I think my problem with this stuff is, from an action excitement point of view, they're just ships. You're not seeing the people.
No.
So it's just.
Oh no.
So it's just a ship. It's hard to care because it's like, I'm Red 5 standing by, Simply Red standing by.
Poor old Porkins.
And you see, Wedge.
Yeah.
What's his name in real life?
Dennis Lawson.
Dennis Lawson. Yeah. Ewan McGregor's uncle. They give him a medal. Then why don't they give Wedge a medal? The bastards.
Whoa! Don't talk about medals.
No. Oh God, yeah.
So
I've got a good point about the medal ceremony.
I just think some of the battles. It's good from a special effects point of view, but I personally don't find I'm drawn into the action. I never find it tense or interesting. I feel like I'm just watching a firework display. I don't really care.
No, I was into it at this point. I was loving this. There wasn't enough TIE fighters spinning upside down for my X-Wings, because I love it when X-Wings do like a barrel roll. So
the sound design so amazing.
It's fabulous.
The sound of the X-wings and when they're opening the spoils and stuff to attack, and then that TIE fighter sound, which is so distinctive, and then the laser sound. The sound is what's his name? Thingy Bert, wasn't it, that did it? Oh man, it's so good in this film.
It's fabulous, and of course, Han comes back, the returning hero with his dice. Who'd have thought cargo ships would be so good at space battles? But it's fast enough for you, old man. No, so Paul, go on. So we've got
medals. That's it, and then they get back home, and then
no, wait a minute.
Just go,
we've got the CGI'd Death Star. So
with the extra explosion, which looks better.
What happens to Vader's ship? Is he just floating around in space for a long time? Because
for the first time ever, I saw him level up. I always thought he just went spinning.
He
levels it up.
I thought he
levels and flies off, doesn't he? Yeah.
I wonder how far he gets with that though, because he's
in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's no moon, is it?"
I guess therell be some Star Destroyers that would crop up there, wouldn't they? They've just heard the Death Star's blown up. They'd just be heading over there.
See, this is my point, and I love Star Wars, and I understand that this was the first film, so he's not going to do this because you're not going to kill everyone off. Everyone wants to see in the 70s a medal ceremony. And the poor Chewie not get one, even though he did a lot of work.
Dear.
But if you're the Emperor and you're all powerful, you've got everyone, all this money, all this technology, you know now where the rebel base is. Would you not send a couple of Star Destroyers right to hit right where Death Star was killed?
Absolutely.
Or was blown up, and then just pulverize them?
Absolutely, just hundreds and hundreds of the Star Destroyer just battering the life out of that little planet. Yeah,
because that's, I mean, I know Rogue One is 30, 40 years later, so it's completely different, but there were about half a dozen Star Destroyers knocking about around Scarif doing nothing.
There's none left here. Maybe people just aren't pilots anymore. So that's,
I mean, we understand why, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
And again, you imagine. I always imagine on that scene, there's Han's medal, there's Luke's medal, and Chewie's like, "What?" and 3PO's like, "Finally, someone's given me a gold leg." So we're all happy now.
Princess Leia's got a new outfit, a new hairstyle, and
extra red lipstick.
And she's kind of hedging her bets by giving a cheeky smile to both of them. She's not, at this point, she's not decided, but when she looks at Luke, there's something familiar about his face, maybe.
I don't know about that. So, guys...
Did I share a womb with you, she's thinking.
So, you're a bit force sensitive, aren't you? So, guys, we've sort of lovingly taken the piss a little bit in this episode. Overall, though...
Does it stand up?
Absolutely. This was better than I remember.
Go on, Rob.
I think it'll be interesting when we watched Empire. I think it's dated. I think the performances are pretty hokey. The dialogue's pretty hokey. There's something lovably family-friendly about it, though. Especially where something like, compare it to something like the Marvel films now, where kids watch Marvel films, but compared to this, look how violent the Marvel films are. This is it's so safe, and it's so sexless as well. Because even like the quick little peck on the cheek, and then the bit when he's ribbing Luke, like, "Oh, do you think she likes you? I wonder if she would ever go out with a guy like me." It's really aimed where it's not going to make any little kid feel a bit like, "Oh, that's a bit weird. I don't like girls."
Yeah.
It's completely sexless. The threats are fairly safe in it, really. Vader's not particularly scary, really.
I disagree, because he was when I was a kid, but not as a 50-year-old man. But no,
there's lots of action in it. It's breezy, it's fast-paced, it's fun, it's got a few good jokes in it. As a family action adventure movie, it's absolutely brilliant. It's really good formula for how to do it well. Characters have got good chemistry between them. The set design, the production design, where you've got that colour palette where it's all sandy at the start, then you've got all the metallic greys in the middle in the Death Star, then you've got then you've got the space battles at the end, where obviously you mainly just the greys and the blacks, I suppose, blacks of the night sky. So it really feels, well structured from that point of view as well, doesn't it? It's mad. It's mad. There's not. I mean, what was like this before?
Well, we had 2001, hadn't we? But that isn't this, is it?
But this is Flash Gordon. But remember, it's because he wanted to try and get the licensing, didn't he, for Flash Gordon? And couldn't get it, so he wrote his own basically. But if the Flash Gordons before these, with those black and white ropey looking serials, wasn't it? Like the Rocketeer type ones.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So it's mad, isn't it? When you think him getting the funding for this. And the people will be going, what the hell are you on about, mate? The Force and Jedis and...
I mean, this is that lightning in a bottle, isn't it? You do wonder, don't you, how he got it just right? Because there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of going out on a limb here. There's lots of backstory.
It shouldn't work.
No,
that's the thing. It shouldn't work.
Not to it. So I agree with what Paul says, and Rob, I agree with everything you said. It's a fabulous, like you say, family sci-fi film. It wasn't bogged down with all the nowadays, so and so we've done it today. So and so, he said that in the Clone Wars and he didn't do this and so there was none of that. It was just a film, and for that, it was way ahead of its time. Did I get myself blown away just stepping back for a minute? No, but
it didn't pass the T test for me though.
Oh, didn't it?
No, I went out and there was a moment I went out and got a cuppa.
I made a cup of tea before, but it carried on at a great lick. I didn't look away at any point. There was lots and lots of bits where, we've been lovingly jibing at it. I sort of lovingly jibed at Greedo shooting first and this, that, the other. Again, we've said this so many times, it's really hard to take away your childhood, your nostalgia, everything.
It's also what's so unique about it is this self-contained universe, because it's not even this is the future or anything. It's another galaxy far away.
It's an alternate universe, isn't it?
So it's its own laws and everything's like a fully realized other world, isn't it? In the way that Lord of the Rings kind of is, but even Lord of the Rings kind of almost works like a fake prehistory of Earth in a way where maybe it was like that, but these other creatures died out. But Star Wars doesn't even work as a future. It's just its own thing. And
for that, you've got to give it great kudos. That's why it's worth $4 billion, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to watching Empire now because some of the other podcasts I listen to, they sort of said, this was the lucky break, and he's like, right now, Empire, we've got some serious money to play with, and where we're going to go. Crazy Yoda puppets. I love it. That's my favourite kind of Yoda. But all in all, absolutely fabulous. It's gold, isn't it? This is absolutely gold.
It's not. It doesn't, however, it doesn't sit in my 10 out of 10 lists.
Neither for me. And I've got to say, yes, I still hold this in massive high regard. But Rob, I did actually give this a lesser score than Rogue One.
Which is nuts. I think this is 9 out of 10. Of the rewatch, this is the best Star Wars film so far of the rewatch.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
It's better than Rogue One.
Well, it is, but I think the fact that I love the style, look, direction, and the modernality of Rogue One. Look, in no Star Wars, excuse me, in no Star Wars fan club would I stand up and say Rogue One's better than Star Wars: A New Hope. That's asking for yourself to disappear down a Sarlacc pit. So, but I wasn't as blown away and mega in love as I expected to be, but I still loved it. How about that?
Okay.
Paul, any last words before we wrap up?
No, I think you guys have. That was just nice to sit back and just listen.
arguing about it.
I mean, I think you're both right, but I think this is where it starts. So it has that magic.
It's
so
pure gold, isn't it?
It almost earns 5 points for that.
Yeah. I mean, you try and judge it, but you can't separate it from it because it's just like in your blood, isn't it?
It's one of a kind.
When you've grown up with it,
it really is one of a kind, isn't it?
So there's all the toy, and just think, not just watching the films and rewatching the films so many times. We think about how many hours as a child I've recreated scenes or had my own little adventures and in between each film with the figures, I would have thought, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next, and playing that with my figures, making my own sequel to New Hope. Then after Empire, making your own one after that. And I used to do drawings of posters, making up different films and stuff like that. And so it's just like, you know, my imagination, obviously, from this as well.
We all like to give George Lucas
so much time in that world.
We all like to give George Lucas a battering for CGI add-ons, but I mean, come on, when you create this kind of world, you got to give credit to the guy. It's just fabulous.
Yeah. And obviously, without this, you wouldn't have any of the others. Yeah. Any of the Clone Wars, you know. Any of the Mandalorian, you wouldn't have, you know, alien kids riding around on umbrellas.
And the red Lambrettas.
The slowest car chase in living memory.
Don't. Right, lovely Star Wars listeners. Thank you for joining us for this hour-long, extra-long episode. But you know,
I know we've gone on this one.
We can all talk Star Wars, can't we? So. I'm sure we'll have a much shorter episode next week. So, as always, you can email me some hate about why I don't love this as much as I remember it. We have been watching podcast at gmail.com. Over on Twitter, it's at WHBW And if you want to see cool black and white pictures of Rob playing with his back to tank, it's over on Instagram. It's
a euphemism.
Yeah, it's over on Instagram. It's We Have Been Watching Podcast. Paul, thank you ever so much for joining us today. Paul,
thank you for having me.
Do you want to shout out your Twitter or anything? Or
Twitter is at Paulie78. Paulie with an I, not a Y.
Beautiful. Paul, if you get more followers than our podcast, we're not inviting you back. So that'd be cool. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you all soon. Take care, and may the Force be with you.